AI is changing the way we need to think about sample libraries moving forward, because the big question is, when AI can generate all kinds of useful sounds nearly instantly, why would anyone still care about sample-based VSTs? To answer that question, I think we need to move past the usual "what will AI replace" conversation and instead ask, what will AI make us pay attention to again? After 3 years of creating my own custom VSTs from literal scratch, I've started to see exactly where sample-based libraries still have a place in all of this. And that place is not about competing with AI on quantity, but about creating virtual instruments that contain something AI can't truly generate. Let's talk about it. You see, in the past, a sample library solved a very practical problem. You did not have the piano, or the orchestra, or the nice recording studio. So you bought access to someone else's recordings. That was the basic promise of a sample library. Access to sounds you could not easily create yourself. But AI is starting to change that situation. Because if usable sounds can be generated faster than we can record them, then a sample library can no longer only rely on the fact that it gives you access to sounds. And that creates a great shift in the value proposition of sample libraries. Bear with me here. Because for a long time now, sample libraries were valuable because access to sound was limited. But when sound itself becomes easier to create, the question is no longer only, can I find this sound, but why would I choose this sound over all the others? So that's the moment where the context around the sound starts to matter more. And not in a nice-to-have marketing material kind of way, but as part of what gives the sound its value. The future sample library is not just a collection of sounds. It is a story you can play. So the way forward is not just to make bigger, cleaner, and more technically perfect libraries. It's to make libraries that are more specific and more clearly connected to a real human moment. Because when a library comes clearly from someone's own way of seeing things, it's like they're sharing a small world with you. A great library, therefore, will feel like entering this world. That's what gives the sound something to hold on to. Not just for the person who made it, but for the musician, the sound designer, or sound enthusiast who creates with it too. It gives them something to engage with and then make into something of their own. Because a human-made sample library isn't just a sound product. It's a container of time and place, musical emotion and memories. So, if we consider a sample library as a container of memories, then a sample would be the smallest memory inside it. Or, in other words, every individual sample is a tiny trace in time of something that actually happened. There was actually someone there playing the instrument, in that special room, with those carefully placed microphones, trying to get the best performance possible out of the situation. Real moments were captured with every single sample. And that's not just a philosophical detail. It is the difference. AI can generate all kinds of useful sounds, but it can only imitate the surface of a memory in that sense. Because even though the AI model is trained on real performances, the output is not a continuation of those recordings. It is newly generated. So the direct connection to those moments is lost. So even if it can recreate the impression of a real recording, it doesn't come from the same chain of choices, and it wasn't actually there. You know, to me, how generative AI works is a bit like trying to describe a lake, simply by describing what the water surface looks like. Pretending that there are no stones shaped by the water current, no plants, no fish, just nothing beneath. And that still might sound a bit abstract, but music has always been more than just the sound itself. Because when we talk about the greatest tracks of all time, we're not talking solely about how good they sound. We immediately talk about the amazing people behind it, the place it was recorded and produced, the sometimes unconventional creativity behind the sound creation process, the artwork created around it, the whole background story behind the music. So the point is, if sound quantity becomes basically unlimited, then the thing that stands out isn't just more sound or even better sound. It is evidence that there is something beneath the surface, that someone was there making creative decisions along the way. AI will become part of the sample library workflow in some form or another, both for creating the libraries and for creating with them. I think that part is inevitable. And to be fair, a lot of innovation in music has come from technical advancements. Better instrument manufacturing, for example, changed what instruments could do. Musical notation changed how ideas could be captured and iterated. Analog gear changed how music could be recorded and shaped. The digital age changed how music could be edited, produced and shared. So in that regard, AI is not the first tool to change music. It's part of a much longer story of all kinds of innovation. But new tools never removed the human role completely. They changed what the human role was. Because even with the most powerful tools, someone still had to decide what was worth making and how. And I think that is the important question now as well. What is the artificial intelligence actually being used for? Is it helping someone develop an idea, or is it completely replacing the part of the process where the actual creative input was supposed to be? Because that's where this distinction starts to affect what the work actually is. Working with assistants still leaves someone in the process, but outsourcing removes them from it completely. And when this happens, the result still might sound impressive, but if it is presented like there is a real creative process behind it when there isn't, the whole thing starts to feel less like creativity and more like a lie. You know, the more I think about purely AI-generated sounds, the more it feels like one of those show houses. From the outside, everything can look good and even very well constructed and designed. But when you look through the windows, nothing's inside. No rugs with slightly faded spots from years of footsteps, no well-kept potted plants, no family photos from a nice summer evening, no souvenirs from all over the place, no memories, no life. I think we all know that those are the things that mean the most though. Because when there's nothing behind the surface, there's nothing to discover or to return to. And in the end, that means you're never going to connect with anything deeper than good looks. Until next time.